The people we trust with our health are facing a very real threat to their own. Violence against healthcare workers continues to rise. Federal data shows they are 5 times more likely to experience workplace violence than employees in all other industries. In tonight's To Your Health, how one man is fighting back to improve his own workplace and our state's laws.
Did you ever expect that this would have happened to you?
No, I didn't.
Chris Biesing isn't a doctor or nurse. He's held managerial roles at Stormontvale. In January 2017, at a meeting in a clinic, that didn't matter.
As I was walking down the hall, there was a person that had been sitting on a bench, and he stood up and he attacked me and punched me in the jaw and dragged me around the corner. The attack broke my jaw, which led to 2 surgeries. The first one didn't take properly, it didn't set, and so they rebroke it and wired me shut for a second time.
Biesing missed 2 months of work and spent 2 years recovering.
And I came to healthcare to try to help people that help other people. And through that, I never expected to really have to worry about my own safety.
The experience led Biesing to a new role as Stormont's Director for Workers' Compensation and Workplace Safety. He also chairs their Workplace Violence Committee.
After the incident happened, I definitely felt alone. I felt all by myself, that people didn't understand what happened and what was going on.
He quickly realized he wasn't alone. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports injuries from violent attacks against medical professionals grew 63% from 2011 to 2018, and healthcare professionals accounted for 73% of all non-fatal workplace injuries due to violence in 2018, 76% in 2020. On the extreme end, in June 2022, a person upset over continued pain walked into a Tulsa, Oklahoma hospital, shooting and killing a surgeon, another doctor, a receptionist, and a patient. In Kansas, a Kansas Hospital Association survey in fall 2018 found more than 46% of the 109 hospitals responding had patients, visitors, or others commit violence in the workplace over the course of a year. 21% saw violence 1 to 3 times a month. Nearly 13% report occurrences 1 to 3 times a week, and 6.6% see a violent act every day. Biesing said Stormont averages 3 injury-causing workplace violence incidents a month and 10 security calls each week.
I share my story so that we can learn and make the changes that are needed.
The search for solutions led Biesing and healthcare workers from across Kansas to the State House.
This is a crisis. We are in crisis, and we are asking this body for help.
At a January House Judiciary Committee hearing, they testified for a bill increasing penalties for battery against a healthcare provider.
It says to healthcare workers, you matter and you shouldn't have to be afraid to report to duty and just do your job. But our staff is afraid to report for duty.
Lawmakers folded the proposal into other legislation, and Biesing was there when the governor signed it into law earlier this month.
Pretty emotional for me to see it and to be through all of this. It's not a solution, but it's one of the pieces that's going to help fix the puzzle and help protect healthcare workers more than we have in the past.
Biesing admits the attack has changed him.
I still at times see patients or families or visitors and fear for myself. I'll see someone walking down the hall and will wonder, do I need to protect myself?
But his new role gives him new perspective to channel those thoughts into improvements. In recent years, Stormont has doubled its security staff, added metal detectors and screeners in the emergency department, continually assesses what areas might pose risks for attacks, and adds notations to charts for patients with a history of aggressive behavior.
And the idea is to protect staff members so that they know there's a potential for violence there, but also to help ensure that they have the tools that they can take care of themselves and also make sure that the patient's safe as well.
In addition, Stormont has added resources and support groups so no one else who's been through what Biesing has ever feels alone.
And healthcare workers, in the effort to take care of the patient, put themselves in harm's way at times. And so what we need to do is take extra steps to help protect them.
There has been some federal legislation on this issue that has not advanced. By the way, Biesing's attacker had a criminal history that led to a 16-year prison sentence. Biesing himself was recently named one of Ingram's 2023 Heroes in Healthcare for his efforts on workplace violence issues. Afternoon and welcome to a special Eye on Northeast Kansas. Today we are focusing our entire discussion on the recent violence we've seen in the city of Topeka and expanding the time beyond our usual half hour because this is such a big issue and concern. This is not the sort of record the city of Topeka is bragging about. The most homicides the capital city has recorded in a single year. The first 2 in the first 8 days of 2023, the next 3 in a fatal fire, and 2 more before the month of January was done. More recently, the month of October, starting with 5-year-old Zoe Felix, then 3 teenagers and 4-year-old Laurencia Perez-Belair, all in the following week. And just this week, the 33rd homicide victim killed in a wreck caused by a driver who police say had just fled a traffic stop. So where do we go from here? It is a very complex issue, and you can see that we have a large group here today to give many perspectives on some potential answers and solutions and suggestions for how we move forward. We begin our conversation with our public safety professionals. They are tasked with responding to these crimes, investigating them, and also working toward prevention. Topeka Police Chief Brian Wheelis, Shawnee County Sheriff Brian Hill, and Washburn University's Police Chief Chris Enos are all here. Thank you, gentlemen, for starting this discussion today. And much of it does start with the Topeka Police Department, Chief Wheelis. Is there anything, when you've seen this record, first of all, how concerning is it to you in addition to the entire community?
Well, it's very concerning, and everywhere you go, you hear conversations about it, and that's why those conversations are so important, and why today, what we're doing today is important. We see trends, but as your opening highlighted, the biggest trend that we've never really seen before in the capital city is kind of marking the trends that we see across the nation, which is youth crime, both as victims and as offenders. And that is something that we haven't seen traditionally, even when the numbers have been higher in regards to violent crimes in the city. And that's very concerning on a number of levels. The good part about it, though, is it also highlights the importance of the law enforcement programs we have that are mentorship and guidance, like school resource officers. It highlights the amazing partnerships that we have with USD 501. It also highlights all the law enforcement partnerships that we have. So I think in the short amount of time that I have, I just want to reassure the community that there is a tremendous amount of collaboration and communication that's going on behind the scenes. The law enforcement partners that we have here today have many more law enforcement partnerships at the state and federal level that are all the resources are being brought to bear to suppress these crimes and investigate the ones that we have.
Is there anything that links anything together? Because they seem to run the gamut. We've had shootings, we had the fire, young people, older people.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, traditionally, historically, we see trends. Domestic violence is always a trend. That includes abuse of children and neglect of children. Recently, in the last couple of years, we've seen trends that involve safe handling and responsible gun ownership, securing firearms so that children don't have access to them and tragedy doesn't occur. Beyond that, we always have the traditional thing of instructing our youth and all of our citizens to make good, smart choices in their associations and their activities. We see a higher rate of victimization on people involved in criminal activity and use of drugs and sale of drugs, etc.
Sheriff, in addition to the partnerships the chief mentioned, what concern does this bring up for you when you see a trend like this in the city limits? Criminals don't exactly know where the city-county line is. So what do you notice and take note of when you see these trends?
We see an uptick in drug crimes. Honestly, out in the county, we've had a trending down in Part 1 crimes. That's continued even through this. It's very important to me as sheriff to partner with the Topeka Police Department and Chief Wheelis to address these concerns. I've seen more narcotics trafficking, just the sheer number and volume of seizures that we get. You can tell that it is prevalent just by the price of narcotics.
What concern does that raise, though? Because when you see the drug crime, what is at risk of following?
Well, I just think the narcotics impact a wide gamut of crimes, including the domestic violence. A lot of the shootings and robberies traditionally have been drug-induced crimes. A lot of the thefts and things along that nature are drug-induced crimes. So I really do think the uptick of narcotics flooding our communities is having an impact negatively on law enforcement.
How does that put everybody else at risk? Because even if you aren't somebody who's involved in drugs yourself, if other people are, what could that mean for you?
Well, I think you're going to have to be on alert and always be aware of your surroundings and take the precautions that all of us should probably be doing. And I think here in law enforcement, we've done a tremendous job partnering with our partners throughout the county. The Shawnee County Drug Task Force, Chief Wheelis has put a lot of resources into that as well, and us trying to combat some of that. So, yeah, it's a continuing issue, and the education and the preventative side of that has to be addressed. So.
A lot to talk about there. Chief Enos, who talks about education and prevention. What concerns does this raise on the Washburn campus? While the campus itself has not been the scene of any of these incidents, the area around the campus certainly has been.
Well, Washburn's a community within a community, right? And so we are impacted, even if it's not directly. We experience the same things that other people in Topeka do. We live here, we work here, and so when those incidents happen, especially close to the campus, it has an impact on the feeling of safety, right? We have an amazing team that works around the clock to maintain a safe campus, and then when there are incidents near the campus, we work with our city and county partners to be a part of that solution. So,
what resources are available on campus for students to ensure their safety?
So we have an amazing police department that's staffed 24/7 on all 3 of our campuses, and Washburn Tech and Tech East, as well as the main campus, obviously. We have a communications center that's there to answer their calls, their texts, all hours of the day and night. We have help phones around the campus that are available for students. And then our technology on campus, our ITS department, maintains an amazing camera system that helps us and our city partners. So.
Students live in the community, and the criminals, again, just like they don't know where the city-county line is,
Absolutely.
There's nothing to keep them from crossing that sidewalk.
Absolutely.
And being on campus proper. So what is your reassurance or your message to families who might be considering sending students to Washburn?
Yeah. I want them to know that we have a safe campus, right? We hear that from our campus community, and we all work to maintain that safe campus, and I think that's a really important message that they hear. But I also want to point out, Chief Wheelis has talked about youth interaction. I watched his YouTube video last week about if you have a chance to interact with youth in this community, do that, right? And I think Washburn's uniquely positioned to help with that, right? Our Shawnee County Thrives Scholarship Initiative that we're working towards, that really is to help build a path for those students that are looking to continue their education on a different lifestyle. Whether it's Washburn Tech or Washburn University, we want to be there to be that path for them. So,
do you 3 feel that Topeka is a safe city?
Absolutely. And I think that the partnership that we have, and I think the community's response to this challenging situation of crimes echoes that. But I think Chief Ennis hit a big point. All of us, every single viewer that's watching, can take an opportunity to talk with kids they know, youth they know, point out how important they are, and encourage them to make safe and responsible choices for not only themselves, but to be leaders in the youth community as well. But this is absolutely a safe place to live.
Agreed?
I do, and it's important that we make sure that they know that there's that path there, right? If they're willing to take it and do the work, Washburn's there, other institutions are there to make sure they have a path. So,
Chief Enos.
It's part of our community. It's part of our heritage.
If you belong to something, you should honor it.
If we don't keep our culture alive, a part of our hearts, a part of each one of us will die.
This is a vibrant community. There's something to learn from our culture.
Welcome to our special presentation. I'm your host, Melissa Bruner. For 9 decades, Topeka's Oakland neighborhood has opened its arms to all for a party. Their Fiesta Topeka, marks its 90th anniversary this year. As always, everyone is invited to the Our Lady of Guadalupe church grounds to celebrate the traditions, the dances, the music, the art, and the food of our Mexican community, all to support the church's joint school with Sacred Heart Parish Holy Family School. This milestone also gives us a chance to reflect on a story that begins before the first fiesta ever happened.
Coming to a new country, not knowing the language, not having money. They were running away from the revolution in Mexico. That's how our grandparents and great-grandparents started here